July 17, 2024, regular meeting of the Lake Bluff Joint Plan Commission and Zoning Board of Appeals. Agenda item number 1, call to order and roll call.
Yes, we can call to order the Village of Lake Bluff's Joint Plan Commission and Zoning Board of Appeals for Wednesday, July 17th, with a roll call vote. Member Danley?
Here.
Member Fisher? Here. Member Miller?
Here.
Member Russell?
Here.
Member Sorensen is on Zoom. Member Toll has stated he'll be absent today, and Chair Peters.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum.
Great. A quorum of the PCZBA is physically present at the meeting. In regards to Member Sorensen, a notice was received by a member of the PCZBA in accordance with village policy, and Member Sorensen will be deemed authorized to attend the meeting electronically unless a motion objecting to the member's electronic attendance is made, seconded, and approved by 2/3 of the members of the PCZBA physically present at the meeting. If no such motion is made, Member Sorensen's request to attend the meeting electronically shall be deemed approved. Is there a motion? Hearing none, Member Sorensen's request is approved. Agenda item number 2. Non-agenda items and visitors' public comment time. We allocate 15 minutes during this item for those individuals who'd like the opportunity to address the board on any matter not listed on the agenda may do so. Each person addressing the board is asked to limit their comments to a maximum of 3 minutes. Is there anyone present who would like to present? If you could state your name for the record and then proceed. And if it takes more than 3 minutes, I think we can accommodate.
Okay, well, I'll try to make it fast. Thank you for seeing. I'm Tom Dobbins. I'm representing Susan and Peter Colburn. You have seen us before. We are back. We have a relatively minor change that we would like to discuss with you that is not in full compliance with the zoning. So for those of you who remember, this is the packet that we presented months ago and got a variance approved at 134 East North Avenue. This particular design had a front porch that was in front of the bedroom. That had nothing to do with the variance, but the reality is they decided to not build that front porch. So the front porch, and by the way, I distributed some photographs of the existing front porch, and many of you have probably driven by the house. So the front porch is now smaller. And we're trying to reconcile a manner in which the steps going down are a little more graceful and a little more comfortable. As you probably know, zoning allows for those steps to protrude into the front yard setback 4 feet. The proposal that we emailed, and thank you for letting us present on such short notice. I know you got the drawings at 4 o'clock today or even later. The steps that we're showing, and the steps have a little more kind of elaborate arrangement around the steps to try to make it a little more graceful, protrudes out 7 feet instead of 4 feet. It is also a little wider than the 5 feet that's allowed per zoning, and quite a bit under the 66 inches that zoning allows. That was a bit of a surprise that you allow something that high. So the drawings that you have in front are preliminary, and that's what we're here to try to get some feedback on. If it's likely that you would look favorably upon something like this, then we would likely proceed. If it appears not, then we probably won't, and we'll find another solution. The hardship, which is very similar to the hardship on many existing houses, the hardship is we didn't place the house where it is. It existed. We wouldn't have placed the house this close to the front yard property line, and we wouldn't have placed or had the finished floor up near as high as what it is. So those, and we saved the house and all the things that you guys like to hear. But the hardship is really we're trying to work with existing conditions and try to make the front of the house, frankly, more the appearance improved. So what you have in front of you are 4 drawings, freehand sketches, by the way, of the plan with dimensions, front elevation and a side elevation, and a very amateurish landscape plan. The landscape plan is included in there because we wanted to let you guys know that we intend to landscape quite a bit around the proposed steps and stoop so that it would soften that as well. So that's my presentation.
Mr. Dobbins, what is the anticipated width of the steps?
Well, the actual step, so the steps narrow as it cascades down. The steps are literally 5 feet wide for the first 3 steps, but we're creating a 1'8" platform on each side. And as we've shown in the drawings, the idea would be put potted plant on each side. Then instead of having the steps cascade down one after another in a very conventional railing, we've created a 3-foot platform to try to soften it. So the platform is out about 6 feet, and then the steps narrow to 4 feet. But when you get out that far, it's past the 4-foot allowable.
By how much?
Let me tell you exactly. So, 3 feet. It comes out 3
said 3
feet
feet,
past the 4-foot allowable, but it's also wider than your allowable as well.
Okay. Is it going to be concrete?
No, glad you asked. It's going to be bluestone, very high-quality material. The surface would be 2-inch bluestone, and the face of the risers would be limestone. Very similar to the materials that were originally presented for the house a couple months ago.
Mr. Russell?
I don't have any questions. I don't really have any concern because the elements are so low. I mean, that last pad is actually only 6 inches above grade. When I first saw the sketch, I was worried, and then once I understood the elevations, it's very low to the ground. And once you have the landscaping around it, you won't even see the lower half of the steps.
You will.
So-
That's the objective, yeah. And the reality is, as when we added the platform, by pushing it out a little farther, we had to add a step, is the reality of the design, because the grade slopes down a little more. So, but what you see out past the 4-foot allowable is quite low, yes.
Thank you, Member Russell. Ms. Fisher?
Yeah, I think the only question I have is when I look down, when I look west on that block, it looks like several of, I'd say 1, 2, 3, at least 3 of the other houses do protrude out closer to the parkway, or closer to the street, let's say. So this is not gonna exceed those. I mean, you'll be still kind of in a
You know, I wish I could tell you exactly whether it will come out farther. I didn't look at that.
those are actually
Yeah.
to George's point, those are actually the building itself, the full height and everything. So I just was curious
Well,
if you knew
I
that.
trust you, so that would be a good argument that I should have presented to you guys as well. But the other thing that's a bit unusual here is the property line is not at the edge of the sidewalk here. There's actually about, in most places, properties in Lake Bluff, the edge of the sidewalk is the property line. There's actually about 5 feet between the property line and the sidewalk, which gives us a little more room than you might expect in the front yard. So the front yard setback at 20 feet from the sidewalk is actually about 25.
Right. Yeah, so I wouldn't see a problem with it, so.
Thank you.
I have absolutely no issue whatsoever. I think the platform is a great solution. Obviously, the bluestone, it's in keeping with the character of Lake Bluff, trying to keep it open to the neighbors, welcoming. I think we've always tried to encourage porches and patios and, allowing one to sort of be part of not only nature, but the streetscape. And I think you're right about really sort of blending in with the rest of the homes. I have no objection whatsoever, and actually, I would think the hardship is when we get older, getting up the stairs that are currently there would have been really difficult, so that should have been added to your hardship,
I'll take note.
although they're very young, but I'm just saying.
Thank you. Ms. Sorensen?
Hey, good evening. I just want to add, I also have no issue with the steps. In fact, they're quite lovely. That's a much more human-friendly walkway and much easier navigation. So I think that's very well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think the questions have elucidated any possible concerns, and I'm comfortable with the proposal also. So I think there's a general consensus.
You didn't ask me.
I apologize. You're up.
I agree. But I want to commend you. The house looks great.
Yeah, it is.
Really looks good coming along.
Okay, thank you. I have one question. So you seem supportive, but we still have to go through the normal process of publishing it, sending it to the neighbors, all that sort of stuff. There's not a staff approval available for something like this, is there?
Correct.
Okay, just thought I'd ask. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Downs. Thank you. All right. Agenda item number 3, consideration of the June 19th, 2024 regular meeting minutes. I trust everybody has a chance to review the minutes. Any proposed revisions or other changes?
I did have one sentence that I wanted to add on the bottom of page 2. The text ends talking about my comments of this issue. Member Russell stated that he has no problem with the proposal if the height of the garage is 17 feet. Rather than having a period, I'd like to, and I'll give this to you so you don't have to scribble. Comma, because the adjacent property to the west is permitted by code to construct a detached garage within 5 feet of the common property line directly opposite the proposed location of the subject garage. The irregular lot regulations provide for the scenario as proposed.
Thank you, Member Russell. Member Fisher?
Just one change on page 3, second paragraph, where second sentence, Member Fisher wanted to clarify that she understood the need for the variance due to the fact that it's an irregular flag lot and E1 zoning, so just in larger lot. That's all.
Thank you, Member Fisher. Member Miller?
I have no further comment.
All right.
Thanks for not forgetting about me.
Any other comments from the commissioners? Hearing none, is there a motion, please?
I move we approve the minutes as amended.
I second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right. Agenda item number 4, informal review, 229 Prospect Avenue. Ms. Gable, if you could give us a brief overview, please.
Yes. The owner of 229 Prospect Avenue, Mr. Dean Sontag, approached village staff about the possibility of constructing a carport on his property. As proposed, the carport would, at a minimum, require variations for its location in front of the house and its encroachment into the 20-foot front setback. And Mr. Sontag is here tonight seeking informal feedback from the PCZBA. So if you
If you could state your name and address for the record, Mr. Sontag, and
Yeah.
we'll
Dean
proceed.
Sontag, 229 East Prospect Avenue.
All right.
Yeah, I'm coming forward just to get a preliminary input on a potential for a carport on my 25-foot wide lot. The house was constructed in 1908, or the brick, cottage. It's been uplifted and added on to the back. And just the idea of both the, what I call tree litter, rain, snow, ice, the safety of going out in the driveway, and it can all be remedied with salt and shoveling, which I do. I've had my 70-year-old mother-in-law live with me. She does not live there now, but it was a significant concern. And it is a convenience factor as well as, to me, as I age, a safety factor. So I just kind of put this together, and this is a commercially available powder-coated aluminum, so it doesn't, you can clean it with a power sprayer, and the maintenance of it is significantly less than a painted structure. it would essentially come into it would be behind the setback line, but it would be all within the setback. And just, I'm looking for whether or not, I've seen a few attached carports to homes that were built over the years. They're not within the setback. And I don't really, I'm not trying to run around and figure out who's got what. But I do observe that everybody has cars parked in the driveway. And they're always, that driveway is shown as empty in my house, but there'll always be cars there. So there's always some visual impact on a house that doesn't have a garage. And for most people, many people are both parking, in their driveways, they're parking on the parkway between the sidewalk and the road. And so there's a significant amount of, I'd say, in the village of, other things that are not quite houses. So anyway, looking for your feedback. It's a bit of a process to go through. I know my neighbors are here, and they're not. I do think they're opposed to me taking that path, and I'm okay with public discussion and understanding. So,
Any preliminary comments from the commissioners?
I'll start. I sympathize with your feelings with the issue, but I really feel to put an accessory structure like this in the front, you're literally going right to the front property line, probably within a foot.
yeah.
Into the entire 20-foot setback. And there may be some older non-conforming carports, but I don't think any of them come anywhere near.
I did not make that claim. I just said there are carports that are
near
built to attached houses.
coming all the way to the front property line. I fear that it would really set a very bad precedent. The wide parkways that we have on the east side of the village are really part of what I think adds to the charm of the village. There's also a rule for accessory structures. If you're anywhere near the front half of your lot, not just talking about the front yard, but half, the front up to 80 feet back, the structures like this are supposed to be 10 feet off the property line, the side yard property line. And those rules were developed to try and lessen the impact on neighbors as you get towards the front yard. And this literally goes right to the front property line.
Yes.
We don't have exact dimensions, but probably within a foot. So I just do not
agree.
think I could support this or any structure somewhat like this due to its location.
Sure.
Thank you, Member Russell. Any other commissioners? Ms. Fisher?
I'm a neighbor on the block, not immediate, but I don't think it really impacts my opinion. But I tend to agree with, what George is saying. I don't see just as with the other proposal, I did see variants of other houses protruding out. When you look down Prospect on either side of the street, the houses in that block all sort of line up together. And this would definitely step forward closer to the street. I do think that it's different than just parking cars, just because of the height, the massing, sort of the feeling of bulk, and especially because it is a 25-foot lot, so therefore seems like it would be even tighter and such. So precedent-wise, I wouldn't necessarily, as George said, I wouldn't see wanting to start that on the village streets. So I guess I wouldn't be in favor of it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Any other comments from the commissioners preliminarily?
I'm just curious that, and I don't have to think back on our zoning, but what if they did an awning instead? What if there was something that could come out from the home, maybe not cover the entire thing, but an awning versus carport, or something that would give partial covering, but not come out and encroach the front yard in a way. I'm sure what you want is to have the complete car covered and secured and an individual thing.
You know, I am open for conversation. So, you know, I appreciate both the rationality and the opinion. Visually, I have a little bit of conundrum of myself. I've built a garage out of variance in front of the property line in Lake County, in Lake Bluff School District, where I used to live on Rivers. And so I've done it, and I've done it very aesthetically, and so I understand. And the thing that would actually is I think in visually is because the wood's next door. Because the structure itself is fairly light and see-through, and you're basically looking in and seeing woods. Now, if the woods are gone, then that structure does stand out by itself. And I'm not making an argument. I'm just saying the thought process that I went through, as well as I consider it. And I would potentially put over the same manufacturer, very high quality, awning across the full front that covers the stairway, which protrudes 7 feet, from the front of the house, and is not within the what's it called, the setback.
So then we would need a 27-foot long awning to,
No, we're not going to do that.
right, no,
Oh.
I'm just clarifying, because you've got a raised stoop behind that white
It would cover
trellis
the
wall
raised
there.
stoop. That's all.
You can't pull the car onto the stoop, so
No.
to cover the car, you've still got to,
Yeah. No.
basically have to have the cars where they're proposed under your proposal. So the awning, if it's attached to the house, the stoop and the wall come out 7 feet, it's 7 plus 20, it'll be 20. You're gonna have the same structure.
No, I'm not proposing
It's
that.
just gonna be,
May I clarify?
yep,
A 7-foot wide awning going across the front, not a 27-foot. That would be my alternative. In that it provides cover and protection from the steps for snow, rain, ice, and it would come out of the setback from the first floor.
well, if I'm reading your survey correctly, then you don't even need to come to the zoning board
Right.
for a 7-foot awning,
I know, I wouldn't.
because you're allowed to go to the front setback line
Yeah.
with
And
a porch or an awning or.
right,
Yeah.
yeah. So I recognize that's my alternative. An alternative, it doesn't provide coverage for the cars, and that's life. So. I wanted your preliminary opinion, so I don't spend $3,500 for a variance, and I told my neighbors that this is conversation, and that's all I need.
No, thank you very much, and I think the feedback from the two commissioners certainly parallels my initial reaction also, so.
Very good. All right, thank you. Thanks.
All right. Agenda item number,
I'm sorry, should we have asked the neighbors if they wanted to comment? Or
We could have, it was
We can, it's an informal hearing, so
I don't know if they
yeah,
wanted.
I mean,
I'm just,
can, it's up to the discretion of the chair if
if,
you'd like.
I guess Mr. Sontag might have left, but
know.
if any of the neighbors would like to comment. Certainly. That's all right, but it still gives us additional insight.
My name is John Morrison. I live at 220 East Prospect. George, you're in my seat. I was 8 years on the school board in that very seat. But are there any standards? This structure, as I look at it, isn't very attractive from a street perspective. Are there any standards on the books in Lake Bluff with respect to what the appearance architecturally needs to be for it to be approved or accommodated?
Not necessarily for residential. We do have an architectural board of review that would review something like this if it were commercial. But for residential, it would have to meet our zoning code requirements and building code requirements.
we do have an ordinance which maybe you're not aware of, Clara, called a similar dissimilar ordinance, and the building commissioner could look at a residential proposal or an element of a residential proposal and decide that it's so dissimilar to the neighborhood that he could ask that it be reviewed by the Architectural Board of Review. So there is an element where the staff, if they look at something and it's, but I don't know, maybe one time in 20 years where someone had something that was pretty extreme and it had to be referred to the board.
Yeah, I mean, the precedent you set here is pretty, as you indicated in your earlier comments, I think needs certainly some review, because if that was allowed to go forward, I get the assumption it's not. It sets, I think, an interesting perspective precedent for others in the future. So what about, the other thing I have a question, you know, the other night we have fairly significant winds. Who determines whether the structure is stable enough in the case of a, you know, an 80-mile-an-hour wind? I mean, that's going to be a pretty significant and weighty object there. Who comes in and examines that to make sure that that's meets code or whatever the standards may be?
So I know typically things like this, especially when their kits come with specs, and that I believe would be examined by our building code supervisor.
So someone would make certain it's well established in the ground. In the case of an 80-mile-an-hour wind or whatever, it's not going to flop over on someone else's property or a car or whatever.
It would have, this structure would have to have a license seal. A professional would have to seal the structure in the building.
Okay.
The building commissioner would look for that.
Okay. So that's the process that needs to be gone through in case he comes forward with another option.
As far as the building option.
Okay. Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
My name is Andrew Brunner, and I live at 223 East Prospect, which is right next door. On that picture, you can see that what looks like a tiny little house on the right-hand side of it. So, of course, I mean, for us, it would be terrible to have something built up in front of their house, because it is on a 25-foot wide plot, and the house actually extends practically to the boundary. It's a highly non-conforming house. So that already the house protrudes. Then to build, in addition, something in front of it would be, you know, just be terrible for us, being right next door to it. It would really impact our house and our property. So basically, I would ask, you know, that nothing of this kind be built. So basically, that's what I want to say.
No, we appreciate those comments.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? All right. Okay. Agenda item number 5. Ms. Gable, if you could provide an overview.
Yes. And let me just stop sharing that really quick. So for agenda item number 5, the Lake Bluff Park District has requested that this public hearing item be continued to the August 21st, 2024 PCZBA meeting. And
Need
to
a
do
formal
that,
motion.
we need a formal motion.
Okay. Is there a motion, please,
I'll make the motion
to continue?
to continue, a continuation.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Roll call.
Roll call?
Member Danley?
Aye.
Member Fisher?
Aye.
Member Miller?
Aye.
Member Russell?
Aye.
Member Sorensen?
Aye.
And Chair Peters?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Motion carries. Thank you. All right, agenda item number 6, public hearing 608 Mountain Road variation. Ms. Gable, if you could provide an overview, please?
Eric and Jessica Blum, owners of 608 Mountain Road, are requesting a minor variation from the maximum allowable impervious surface requirements to construct a patio that connects their existing pool to their home. Section 10-5-7 of the zoning regulations allow an impervious surface coverage of 50% for lots wider than 75 feet in the R4 district. The property owners are seeking a variation of approximately 536.5 square feet, which is 9.6% higher than allowable. And the applicant is in attendance tonight to present their plans, and the PCZBA is the decision-making body on this matter.
Thank you, Ms. Gable.
Before we start, we should swear in.
Yeah. And then after you state your name for the record and your address, sir, I'll swear you in.
Wonderful. My name's Eric Blom at 608 Mountain Road.
Okay. If you could raise your right hand, sir. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please proceed.
Great. Well, thanks for having me tonight and for your time. As I've stated, I'm Eric Blom, and I'm here to request a variance for the impervious surface limitation for our lot. I think hopefully did Clara furnish you with some of the renderings that we have in the diagrams. Two of them might be a little bit confusing, so I was going to kind of delineate what those were before presenting to you. There should be a site plan for the current proposed project for the patio. And unfortunately, I did not have time to number those for you, but it would be the most updated one with the current impervious numbers attached. I also just recently submitted to Clara today because I was able to do a little due diligence and look back at our property site plan from when we purchased in 2015. And the only reason that I wanted to bring these to your attention is because I wanted to demonstrate that at the time of purchase, there was a large portion of non-conforming impervious surface to the property, of which we came in and removed. So I just wanted to kind of set that as a foundation for this request comparatively. You can see that I've kind of hodgepodged and highlighted the area of the back driveway, which used to articulate to the side driveway on the property. Oh, perfect, yes, so this is them. So if you see to the left lower hand corner, that's actually the posterior of the property, and at that time, the driveway extended around the home, and the cars would come around from the back and park in the garage. Upon purchase, we had asked to pull that driveway out, so we removed that driveway and put in lawn, as well as the demonstrated back patio and trail that led around to the back corner of the home, which is also highlighted for you. If you look also to the east of the property, and this had been proposed and approved under a previous appeal that we had done with Jonathan Stuck, our architect, and a project that's already been completed, which was for our front patio. We also removed a large portion of the walkway, including patio that had extended out to the ravine itself for the overlook. So I just kind of wanted to highlight that for you comparatively before presenting. The proposal for today is, as discussed by Clara, is just for a little bit under 10% of impervious for the addition of a patio in our backyard. It is kind of hard to use the semantics of hardship when in the context of asking for some acceptance for a lot that sits and abuts on a ravine, but there are certainly some limitations that are imposed to that property because it is atypical, both in dimension as well as layout and topography. If there were to be those limitations would of course include ravine setback. So it kind of limits our ability to build any common spaces of hardscape in the front area of the property. As such, if we were to discuss an advantage of the atypical lot and its topography and its adjacency to the ravine, it would be natural runoff to the ravine itself. So we're hoping that this would be a subpoint in our proposal for allowance for just the under 10% allowance for the impervious that we were hoping to add. We're looking to just define a backyard space that doesn't become infiltrated with water from the pool in between the home, because we have kids that run back and forth between the areas, and it becomes a little bit muddy just as a result of the paths that are created from it. So this would really just be a social space for the family. I've also included a letter from our proximal neighbors, Alan and Courtney Paintner. They're at 609 Maple Avenue, and they have reviewed the plans Would be happy to answer any questions and endorse the proposal if you guys were to consider to accept it. Our other proximal neighbors have just moved away, but they were Jeff and Samantha. They were the home behind us, and they are in the process of selling their home, so I wasn't able to get a hold of them. Otherwise, I would have tried to get their endorsement as well.
And in your petition, you set forth, you address the standards for variation, and we'll incorporate those by reference. Any questions from the commissioners or comments? Member Miller?
You're talking like a uniblock or concrete? What do you kind of think?
So I'm actually getting quotes on multiple mediums. So currently, the product of choice is essentially they use tile, like not a uniblock branded tile, but more or less like a stone tile, and it sits on top of 3/4-inch gravel.
Is it
with,
True-Lock? The true.
I don't know the actual brand of
Okay,
it.
I guess my point being, there's ways of doing that and making it pervious.
Yes, absolutely.
Are you planning on doing it that way?
So our intention at this moment is, not only is that more affordable as an option, we wanted to look at the aesthetics of it first because we wanted to keep the tile similar to the tile that's the coping of the pool. But as of right now, it looks much more cost effective to use that pervious, and that's the proposed quote that we're getting from Heath and Fry, which is the people who would be doing it. So that entails a 3/4-inch gravel without a sand base, so there'll be no shifting, and it allows for water to permeate between the stone without a specific mortar or seal in between.
Because if that's the case, then I would have no problems if it was a pervious surface of accepting what you're proposing. And if you want to see what something looks like, I was in the Grange today, and their parking lots are pervious. So the bricks kind of meet like this, and there's spaces in their product that allows the water to seep in.
Excellent.
And Morton Arboretum, their parking lots are the same way.
Oh, at Mortem?
Morton, yeah.
Excellent, because my wife and I were actually looking to see some finished examples of it, and they've sent some gallery photos, but we haven't been able to actually
Those
see
two
it, so-
places, I know, because I've been there, I've been to both, and they both expound on the fact that they're pervious surfaces. They have
Wonderful.
signs in the front that say pervious surface.
Well, as long as they're durable, I think our concern was with the pervious setup that they would, be lasting, but we've been assured by Heath and Frey that
Well,
essentially-
these are parking lots for public structures, and
that
assume
would
that.
probably pass the durability test then if you're parking cars on them, so,
so I would have no problems if this was a pervious,
excellent, okay,
hard surface.
well, thank you.
Thank you, Member Miller. Member Fisher?
Yeah, I think I agree, that as long as it is not creating more impervious surface, that it would be fine with me.
Wonderful.
I
Member
agree
Danley?
as well. I agree as well. I think we can put that in writing just to confirm that that would be the case, that material would be selected, so.
Sure. How would that process follow through? Would I just update Clara that once we get the quote from the contractors, or how?
So we can probably write that as a condition into
yes.
the resolution
Yeah.
that is voted on tonight.
Could I ask, just in case, because my wife would also have to be party for approval for the aesthetic of what the impervious looks like, if it ended up that she was not happy with how that looked,
That's a problem.
would there be opportunity for a second condition in which potentially, if there was a hardscape put in this area, would there be any conditions we could meet to allow for the variance approval in that context?
George, is there a way of engineering a impervious surface to drain properly like a pervious surface?
Well, I like your suggestion that whatever he puts down there, allow the water to go down through. Is all of that, it's the area K that we're talking about, correct? I mean, that's all we're
Hold
talking
on.
about is area K.
Yes.
Everything else is,
Yes, okay.
Exactly.
So kind of the high,
apparently those two little structures must have been
those were.
said to be okay by the
Those were
building department?
proposals for kitchen and table for my wife.
So is all
Just
of
a
Area K now just a
lawn.
grass? So
Grass.
you don't have any type of hard surface that goes from the back door to the pool?
So just, do you see the stoop that comes out as represented by C,
Proposed stoop?
G or C there?
G, I think G.
G, yeah, right here. So this area is was, and then everything you see here demonstrated throughout this entire area is all just lawn.
So which way does the backyard, I know which way your front yard pitches, right down into the ravine, but where does the water go in your backyard? Does it go north and south? Because if it does,
There really is no gradient to the yard. It's nice and even. And there's no water accumulation that currently occurs, not only in the yard itself, but nor around the perimeter of the yard. It's a very level lot, and we created that lot to be that way. If anything, I mean, we've always asked for a slight grade away from home, but that usually is within 1 to 2 feet of the structure itself. And we laid all of that, as far as the topsoil and everything, so it's very uniform.
okay, well, I would echo the sentiment of my fellow board members that I would like the recommendation to be that it be some sort of pervious material with gaps to allow the water to go through.
Absolutely, and to be candid, that would be my intention and preference also for cost modeling for myself. But the secondary condition and request was if that was absolutely a deal breaker for my wife, is there another allowable condition which would allow for approval for that 10% or under?
Have you had discussions with the building staff about the project yet in terms of drainage? Have
No.
they been out there to look at the rear yard to see which way the water is gonna go if that's all concrete?
Not yet, but I do have, the pool developer actually preemptively laid down a drainage system that could be tapped into and utilized if needed. And I certainly could present schematics for that. I didn't know if it would be necessary, but it's evidenced here, and I can send you over the schematics for it if that would, meaning if we didn't meet the pervious, if my wife wasn't in agreement with the aesthetic of the pervious, we could secondarily look at this, and there's, PVC drain pipes that all lead to a graded area out towards the ravine setting to the north. So I don't know if that would potentially meet conditions if approved
Like an
by
engineer
you.
I think you would need an engineer to evaluate that and come back here and present that. Otherwise, I don't see it. I personally wouldn't like an impervious surface. It does set a precedent for the community, and that's a topic that's very touchy to Lake Bluffers.
Sure, we have a water issue in this town, certainly, so.
So
Okay.
I would propose that if you come back with a different proposal that doesn't include a pervious surface, that you have an engineering report that
Perfect.
shows that the water is not going to drain in somebody's backyard from a concrete patio.
Okay, so at this time then, as long as the condition is met that it's one of the pervious materials, most likely we could approve it, and then if it ends up where that isn't gonna meet my
You'll have to
board's
come-
approval,
yeah.
then I'll come back with a second proposal.
That's what I would suggest.
Well, or
Yep,
should
that
we
sounds fine by
continue?
me.
We don't have to continue it. We can just add on, if the commission is fine with adding a condition that the applicant construct the improvement with a pervious surface with gaps to allow the water to go through, we can go ahead and just make a motion to approve the resolution as amended by the board with that condition, and we'll draft it as so and provide it to the applicant. So that would just be amended on the floor, if the commission is okay with that. And then you wouldn't have to come back unless
I'd appreciate it, yes, please.
If it's a pervious surface, you'd have to come back.
Yes.
Okay. But you'll have to do a lot of due diligence, I feel, if it's going to be a pervious surface that shows the commission that nobody's going to be harmed by this.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, you would have, hopefully you won't have to come back, but definitely if you do come back, have the documented evidence that shows where the stormwater is gonna run.
Absolutely.
Have
So-
village staff go out there and sign off on it before we even see it. And then it'll, because unfortunately, we just can't take your word for it that
I
it may not
totally
run to the
understand.
neighbor's backyard. We don't know,
I'm
based
hoping
on
we-
what you have.
I'm hoping we won't have to enter that process. But if I do, I would reach out to get the logistics of it as far as like who you wanted me to bring there and what type of engineer I would need to certify it for you.
There's many, many great options of impervious surfaces on the market.
Wonderful.
There's great options. I'm sure you can give a great presentation to your partner.
Wonderful, thank you.
I would encourage that.
All right. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion since I was, can we repeat back what we're gonna
Yes,
motion?
so it'll be a motion to approve as amended, that the improvement be constructed with a pervious surface that includes gaps to allow water to flow through.
Yeah, pervious surface would do that.
Wonderful, thank you.
Is there a second?
Oh,
Any further discussion? And you fully understand the status of the...
I do indeed, yes.
Okay. Do we have a vote, please?
Yep. Member Fisher?
Aye.
Member Miller?
Aye.
Member Russell?
Aye.
Member Sorensen?
Aye.
Member Danley?
Aye.
And Chair Peters?
Aye.
That passes. And then, so the next step will be the building permit process once you receive the approval from us.
Okay, so wait for the approval officially, and then I can move forward with the permit application?
You can apply if you haven't already. I know you've been in contact with Mike Croak, so,
I can follow from there.
yeah.
Thanks so much, Claire, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Good luck.
All right.
Done a good job.
Agenda item number 7, public hearing, 665 Maple Avenue variation.
Yes.
Ms. Gable?
Michael J. Busio applied for a variation to construct a detached garage at 665 Maple Avenue. The subject property is zoned E1 and is an irregular lot. The front or west setback was determined to be 30 feet. As proposed, the detached garage would require a variation from section 10-5-9 of the zoning regulations, which state that no accessory building or structure shall be permitted in any required front yard. The proposed ordinance included in your packet notes that this request, if granted, would be due in part to the irregularity of the lot. The property owner came before the PCZBA at its June 19th, 2024 meeting and received feedback that, 1, the proposed detached garage should stay under 17 feet in height, and 2, that the views of the neighbors be considered, such as the sightlines, landscaping, screening, and other things like that. And as proposed, the detached garage is 16 feet 5 inches above grade. Arborvitae and evergreen trees have been added in for screening as well. And the location of the proposed garage was moved slightly to the north to help with sightlines. As the garage would be located on an existing asphalt pad, the oak trees on the property will not be impacted. And the applicant is in attendance tonight to present their request, and the PCZBA is a recommending body on this matter.
Yeah, and perhaps we'll swear in both you, Mr. Busio, and also Mr. Douglas, so if you could raise your right hands, and do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Yes.
Okay. Please identify yourself for the record, and
I'm Michael Bushio, 665 Maple Avenue.
Rob Douglas, architect, 673 Maple Avenue, just down the street.
all right. Yeah, please proceed.
Yeah, thank you again for the opportunity to get in front of you. And yeah, I'm going to ask Rob to hand out. You may have some of these electronically or in your packets already.
They gave us all big, full size.
Okay, good. So you've got those. Eric Blom is one of my neighbors, and he asked me after he was leaving if he wanted me to say anything. But you should also have in your packet, I believe, letters from the 3 adjacent neighbors, Eric and Jessica Blom, who are across on Mountain, and the Baileys, who are just to our north, and then the Kolashes, whose yard will be just to the west of where the basketball court is now. I do want to just follow up on your discussion of impervious to make sure that I do mention that right now the basketball court is much larger than this garage would be. And the hardscape and the basketball court, we already meet the requirements with our lot, but we will be giving back about 47% of the hardscape of that back to pervious by taking up a big chunk of that asphalt. The garage is 21 by 22, and that pad is like a little over 30 by 30. So that pad would come out, and we give back to nature a little bit more impervious, which has always been our intention. When we reconstructed this house, we took out a lot of pervious driveway already. What you can see in front of you is, and is up there on the screen, is what Rob has done. Went over to the Kolash's house, and if I could step up in front of the screen just so I can follow with you there. So Rob went over to the Kolash's house and developed some sight lines with Stephanie. This is from her kitchen window, I believe, Rob, which she said is kind of, where she spends a lot of time looking out that window while she's working and stuff. Their patio is over here. So this sight line, we wanted to make sure that the proposed structure does not come out any further than the house, the currently edge of the house there. So we, as Claire mentioned, we push this a little bit more to the north to take it out of their sight line. I don't know if you had the opportunity to look at the lot, if you've seen it. I mean, it's very wooded. If you come down this driveway, there's lots of screening here. Oh, thank you. There's lots of screening here. There's existing screening here. We've already put in 3 native evergreens that are about 8 feet tall here. And so, we've really been working to make sure that, we don't have this structure affecting anyone's view. I personally met with each of the 3 neighbors and went through the plans with them, the architectural drawings, the site plans, stepped in their backyards. I went over to Eric's house this week with him, and we looked at this, and I had set some cones up on the driveway so we can kind of see the edges. And I've got their approvals, in there. If we do this project, we are going to include landscaping additionally to provide some additional screening on this edge here, for the Bloms who are across the ravine over here, so that, if they look, they don't see much of it, but we'll make sure that, what is there is additionally screened. So that's kind of where we are, and there's some pictures here of what's currently there and the views that Rob took as well.
And then in your petition, you addressed the various standards for variation, and will adopt and incorporate by reference those representations.
Yes, and if you want me to go through that, I can.
If you want to go through real briefly, Mr. Douglas, that'd be fine.
Okay, well, just one quick point. The green represents the ravine to the north and to the east, and then the blue is part of the view corridor of the Kolash's house. But what I want to make a point of is that the property is 71,150 square feet, of which almost 55% of the property is in the ravines. So that is a really unique feature to this site. Then you have the setup of the 10-foot setbacks from the top of the ravine. And then you can see where the 30-foot setback line is on the east portion of the Bushio's property. The corridor coming up off of Maple is 30 feet wide, 180 feet long, and then we arrive at where their front yard is defined under the zoning ordinance, and that's where the 30-foot setback line is set. But one thing we wanted to make sure of is that when you look at a plat of survey, it really is a little misleading, because when you start factoring in the ravine edge, it really does change the character of the property, at least visually in this manner, and as far as table land that can be used for any kind of construction. So, but let me go through the standards of variation, practical difficulty and hardship. And as seen on the plat of survey and the site plan, the property is irregular in shape due to these ravines on all three sides. The lot shape has created practical difficulty and hardship when applying the methodology of the zoning ordinance to determine front yard setback. The result is a significant front yard setback that it's just, it doesn't fit the model of the ordinance very well when you have 180 feet of a drive coming up and then another 30 feet once you reach the primary part of the property, which gets you 210 feet from the property, from the street. So it's a very odd situation, hence practical difficulty. Unique physical condition that pretty well describes, the uniqueness of this property. It's also something that I didn't really even realize, but earlier on I should have mentioned is, I think actually Clara mentioned it, it's a E1 zoning for the Buccios property, but it's R3, is it?
One.
For the two
R1.
properties to the east? Four?
R1.
R1, excuse me, okay. So you have two different zoning definitions, and anytime you have those touching each other, there's always awkwardness. And so that's another kind of a unique variable to the property. And let's see, practical difficulty, I already said that. There really is unique physical condition, pretty well described that. So now as far as special privilege, there really is no special privilege here, but trying to seek relief from the front yard setback to the limited amount of options that the homeowner has with the property for a detached garage. And code purposes, as depicted by the figure ground site plan and the immediate neighbors in the neighborhood, there are significant distances between buildings. So we really don't feel this is really imposing heavily upon the neighbors who are on smaller lots. So, and then the last one is public health and safety, and I really don't see that really applying to any concerns here. So, but I think, that graphic there pretty well depicts what this makes this property so unique. We spent a lot of time with the Kolishes because they were probably the most affected by what is being considered here. The neighbors to the north, they're really oriented toward the northwest into the ravine, and they have a heavy set of large pine trees along their property, which pretty well screens them from anything happening on the Buccios property. So, if, Mike, you want to add anything else?
I don't think so. I mean, it was interesting listening to the previous two zoning requests. We're going to great lengths to make this architecturally nice. It's, going to be cedar sided. It's going to look like the house, the shutters, an architect designing it, so we're not buying a kit and putting up a garage. And then also, as I mentioned, we're very strong stewards of the fact that we live in a unique environment on these two beautiful ravines, and share it with our neighbors, and want to protect the topography, deal with neighbors' site views, and so we've gone to, you know, a lot of discussion with our neighbors who, you know, we have great rapport with, and we actually coordinate landscaping with the Colashes using the same firm, Craig Bergman's, and in terms of where we put things and stuff like that, and we're both into keeping it all natives, Illinois natives. So, you know, we're requesting that you would approve us to, you know, for this project, if we go ahead with it. I still don't have costs yet, so that could be you know, determining factor, but we want to see if this is a viable option.
I'd like to add one quick thing, if I can borrow the mic. When we were over at Kolish's property here, this blue sight line, we went right to that gable, which is 25 feet in height. So we looked at that as being probably, as far as our corridor, anything beyond that is going to be looking right into the house. So we want to not pass that line. That's where we then shifted this farther north. So it's actually coming off of this asphalt pad a little bit, but we're taking it farther north to try to minimize any impact on their sight lines. And you've met with the gentleman who was here just before us about sight lines from his house, and that's going to be addressed. So Mike is definitely getting neighbors involved with location and siting of where the plantings will take place. So he's really including everybody in the neighborhood to try to, or in his immediate vicinity, to have an active role in how this all gets laid out.
Thank you, Mr. Douglas. Who'd like to start? Member Miller.
Okay. Well, I truly, Mr. Buscio, appreciate the due diligence you've done. I mean, you've gone really above and beyond what I think would have been necessary based on the layout of your house and your property, and even moving the garage further north to get a sight line, I think is quite admirable, to say the least. And I don't have a problem. I was just curious, you have a little cap, I don't know what architecturally they call on the top of on the drawings, on the top of the garage?
There's a small cupola.
Cupola.
Yeah, because there's one on the garage attached to the house.
Oh, so it matches that.
So it seemed appropriate.
I didn't remember seeing that, but that's fine. So I commend you, and I don't have a problem with you going forward if you can afford it.
Thank you, Member Miller. Member Fisher.
Yeah, congratulations. I think you've done a lovely job, your team. And I appreciate really getting the involvement of the neighbors, because I think that's, you know, a critical piece, and being proactive about that. You know, and I think that was mentioned last time when you came on the preliminary, and I appreciate it. So good luck with it. I look forward to seeing.
Thank you.
Not seeing.
Yeah, see.
Thank you, Member Fisher. Member Danley.
I have really nothing more to add, other than I was pleased to see the neighbors that are all in favor. And it's interesting, I feel like there is going to be some additional screening for the Kolash family that, I mean, that it may even block for privacy for you and them for your front door. So I think there's even some advantages. Love that you both have the same landscaper, and I'm sure all the other issues of drainage and water issues would be addressed through our staff here. So I'm sure you're going to be doing everything necessary, but definitely in favor.
Thank you, Ms. Danley. Member Sorensen.
Yes, I just have one clarifying question, and perhaps because I'm remote, I couldn't hear this. But I realize that the garage is smaller in size than the concrete pad. Are you removing then some of that concrete pad, the overlap?
Yes, other than an apron that would, you know, come into the garage from the existing driveway. We estimated, I think, what do we say, about 40-some% of the...
Yeah, just under 50% of, about 47% of that asphalt pad will go back to a natural turf pervious surface. So
Great.
we're reducing the coverage of that area.
Excellent. Okay, that's what I thought. I just didn't remember that being addressed in this round. But otherwise, echoing my commissioners there on site, I really appreciate the homework that you've done and working with the neighbors and coming in such a positive manner. That's the homework being done ahead of time is appreciated. So good luck.
Yeah, thank you, Member Sorensen. Member Russell?
One curiosity question, the garage isn't parallel with the west property line, is that because it's lined with the alignment of the home? It's 9 feet at one end
It's
and
on the
10
same orientation of the house.
As the house? Okay.
As the house, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think it is great the way you've cited this also, so that you're really not impacting anyone's views, because if they look through, they would see the house. And that's a great job. The only thing I would ask is that before you go to the village board for final approval, that you actually put a dimension for the north-south location that ties the garage down, because it's not on there. Right now, it's only tied to that asphalt pad, which is going to disappear. And it would be a proper thing to do to have that nailed down for your approval. At least I couldn't find one.
I think it is on there, but it is small. I had to look for it. I think it's on this detailed section here.
Well, what we could do is take some marker.
You know what I'm saying?
paint,
It's
but-
just the
Yeah.
distance to the corner.
Yeah.
It just should be, Ed.
Well, I have some
for
dimensions on
final
there, but
records.
I think the asphalt really is what orients you in that site. Otherwise, it's really hard to tell where you are. But we could take some marker paint and actually paint out those corners. So,
Yeah, no, I'm talking for the formal record. I mean, you've
Yeah.
got it right down to the half inch off the west property line, so there should be a dimension for the garage located north to south. And it should be very easy to establish, because you've already established that property line over there.
well, that would be something we'd have to do off the Plata survey, because north-south, the properties are down the hill, so it's kind of a little challenging there. But we'll get that done with Black Engineering.
Okay,
so-
what's the corner? Yeah, it wouldn't take much work at all.
Or taking it off the
Just
corner
the
of
corner right where the driveway comes in.
Yeah, the
that-
30,
that lot line.
the 30-foot easement, or the
Yeah.
30-foot corridor off.
You could tie it off of that real easily.
Yeah, we could do it off of
So,
that too. But
And as I've said, even when you came in last month, the principal thing in my mind, besides the excellent job you did with citing it, so the neighbor most impacted isn't having any of his ravine views detracted, is the fact that the neighbor has the right to put a garage in that corner within 5 feet of the property line without any, other than getting a building permit.
Right.
But he could put up a pretty sizable garage
And that's what,
or
you know,
other
I,
structure, so, which is what the irregular rule is all about. So, yeah, I'm in favor.
thank you, Mr. Russell. And that's an interesting point you made, and I subtly tried to, to tell my neighbors that I don't need to go to the zoning board to get approval to do this garage if I pushed it off the property line. But it would be very obtrusive to your view if I did that. And so.
And the trees.
And the trees, obviously, yeah. So we're, yeah, again, we're not, that was not ever our intention, but I appreciate, you recognizing that we're trying to work within all these variables to protect everyone's interests.
And then as to additional screening, what species are you contemplating?
Now you're getting outside of my territory. That's more my wife's territory. But what we've put in so far with Craig Bergman have been native pines. I'm not sure which ones those are, but they're native to Illinois here. If those are white pines, some spruce. I think there might be some hemlock in there as well, but they'll be of evergreen. There's some arborvitae that we put like along the driveway as you come in. On that, those are possibilities too. We just want to make sure we've got enough diversity in there so we don't have, susceptibility to any kind of invasion of bugs or, weather that could impact if we have too many of the same kind.
Great. No, I, like the fellow commissioners, I also commend you on the diligence and the respect for the neighbors and the hard work that's gone into this, so I have no concerns either. Any further discussion? Okay, I think we can close the hearing and have a vote, please. I have a motion first, though.
I move to recommend the village board grant the requested relief in the form of the draft ordinance.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, if we could have a vote.
Yep. Member Miller?
Aye.
Member Russell?
Aye.
Member Sorensen?
Aye.
Member Danley?
Aye.
Member Fisher?
Aye.
And Chair Peters?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. And we'll be in touch about the village board, next village board meetings for their review.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, agenda item number 8, staff report, please.
So, just a note, some of you may have met him already, but Aiden over here is our new intern. Lauren is still with us for the time being, but we have added Aiden as well, and he's getting his master's in urban planning from UIC. So he will probably be at some of our meetings moving forward. You might see him on the memos listed as assisting in writing those. So welcome, Aiden. And then hopefully we will have pickleball on our August meeting agenda, just so everyone knows that is what everyone's working towards. So hopefully we will have an update then. And then the only other item that I have is regarding the comp plan. So TESCA has let us know that they will have a draft of the preliminary key recommendations to us shortly, and this would be the step before the full draft plan, and they're looking to present that, knowing that we will likely have at least one public hearing item in August. We may be looking to do a special meeting for that. So I'll send an email tomorrow with a poll of dates that you may be available for that.
So with the pickleball, is the, from what I understand, Blair, it'll be an Artesian versus Blair, is what the proposal was. Is that still?
So the sound studies have been done, and it's shown that Artesian will likely be the one that the Park District will pursue. We're still waiting on those updated applications, so.
If Artesian is chosen, do we anticipate the kind of meeting we had preliminarily when Blair was the go-to place as far as people inundating us with their discussions?
I'm not sure to what extent, but there may be public comment.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be public comment.
Yeah.
Okay. Just curious.
But
And
I mean, they are, at Artesian, it is further from residences.
Yeah, they play there now too. Okay. So and nothing new with the, any of the vacant properties in town, nothing showing up on the radar?
No, not right now.
Okay. Good. Thank you, Member Miller. Any further comment regarding staff report? Just one question, as with our previous interns, has Aiden prepared his presentation for us?
I don't have a presentation. I actually do have a question about the impervious surface approval.
Yeah, no, if you want to raise it.
I guess I'm just curious.
Wait, go to the.
Oh, yeah.
State your name for the record, please.
My name is Aiden Burling. I'm the planning and administrative intern at the Village of Lake Bluff. And I'm just curious if Mr. Blum had proposed the patio / deck as an impervious surface in the first place, like using permeable pavement, would they have to come to the PCZBA for approval because it's a hardscape, or because I'm sure it wouldn't drain quite as well as just grass would, but I'm just curious as to whether they would have to.
You hit the nail on the head. Our code defines any type of improved surface, any granular surface, under the regulations as impervious for establishing a limit of how much vegetative surface must remain.
Okay.
But it was an excellent question.
Thank you.
If the definition was different, you wouldn't have to come before us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Aiden, and welcome. Agenda item number 9, Commissioners Report.
I have a question. What we did tonight with 136 East North is something that I don't think we would normally do. He wasn't on the agenda. Someone can come in and do a non-agenda item, but he actually came in seeking a discourse with the zoning board. And it's probably not a slope we want to go down very often in terms of the Open Meetings Act. This issue was there was no controversy. The front stoop is so low, but he came in and wanted an interaction with the zoning board, but he didn't talk to staff in time to get it on the agenda like the person on Prospect did. So it's not posted on the agenda. And I would assume they've got a project that's just about done. I'm sure they just made this last minute change and they're already going to be held up 2 months by the time they get to the village board. So I understand it, and we're trying to be friendly, but it's not something that we, by the strict letter of the law, we probably, we don't want to do very often,
What the
for sure.
thinking was,
Yeah,
and,
okay.
yeah.
Good point.
Court, do you want to comment, or?
Oh, I mean, I spoke with Clara about it before. We know that that's not, like you said, we don't want that to be a common practice. The chair made a statement beforehand that it wasn't. We would allow him the 3 minutes, and then at the chair's discretion, we can allow him to move forward. So, yes, it wasn't on the agenda for, for OMA purposes, but it was transparent for those that attended the meeting. The minutes will be reflected as that as well. But yes, it wasn't a controversial proposal, but agreed. I think moving forward, if I wasn't sure what past practice was, but if moving forward, if the commission would rather not, we can certainly speak with applicants about enforcing the deadline to be more strictly adhered to.
What we typically do.
Could they have just done it as, they would have, that's right. They would, even if they did it as a informal review, they still would have to put it on the agenda ahead of time, the time frame.
Yeah, this is something that came up, I believe, Monday.
Yeah.
So, and it was,
The deadline.
yeah.
Good point, George.
Yep, good point.
Oh, excellent comment, excellent point. Any other questions, comments, or other discussion points? Okay, hearing none. Agenda item number 10, adjournment. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Aye, aye.
Thank you, Ann.
Aye, aye, Captain.
Thank you.